being officially signed, sealed, and delivered. 7 days. The biggest offseason in WNBA history is upon us. Caitlin Clark is about to make her triumphant return to the hardwood, and the Indiana Fever should be laser focused on one thing and one thing only: building a championship roster around the most marketable player in women's basketball history. So why, in the name of everything sacred about this sport, is Stephanie White making headlines for everything except basketball? Let me tell you what is happening right now, because the optics are bad. The situation is bad. And if you are a Fever fan, you need to sit down for this one, because what I am about to tell you is going to make your blood pressure spike. Stephanie White, the head coach of the Indiana Fever, the woman entrusted with guiding Caitlin Clark and company to a championship, has stepped away from the team. Not permanently, they tell us. Not a resignation, just a temporary shift in focus, a little side hustle, a pivot to greener pastures, while the most critical offseason in franchise history unfolds without her full attention. Let that sink in. Let it marinate in your brain for a moment. We are less than a week away from the new collective bargaining agreement taking effect. Free agency is looming. Roster decisions need to be made. Kelsey Mitchell's future needs to be addressed. The offensive scheme needs refining. And the head coach of the Indiana Fever is not in the gym. She is not in the film room. She is not on the phone with agents trying to piece together the supporting cast that Caitlin Clark desperately needs. No. Stephanie White is serving as an ESPN game analyst for the women's basketball tournament. She is in South Carolina calling games. She is balancing Team USA duties. She is attending First Form events in St. Louis. She is everywhere except where she should be, which is locked in a room with her coaching staff, figuring out how to get this team to the WNBA Finals. Now, I want to be fair here. I want to give context. Coaches have lives outside of their primary jobs. They have families, interests, and yes, opportunities to expand their brand. But there is a time and a place for everything. And right now, with the clock ticking toward a new season, with Caitlin Clark coming off an injury, with the Fever fan base hungry for a championship run, this is not the time to be moonlighting as a television personality. The report states it plainly. Fever coach balanced Team USA duties and ESPN experience after breakthrough 2025 season. The gym lights never really turned off, they claim. They just shined somewhere else for a while. That is poetic. That is cute. But that is also corporate spin, designed to make you feel comfortable about a situation that should make you deeply uncomfortable.
And I guess with the offseason too, Amber mentioned in her exit interview that the number one priority was to land Kelsey in free agency again. Just how important was she to your team this year? How important has she been to the Fever? Obviously, the 8 years she's been with the franchise, and how badly do you want to keep her around?
I mean, yeah, she was the number one priority a year ago, and she's the number one priority this year. She's been so important. And, I said this last year, Kelsey deserves to go through this stage of her Indiana Fever career. She's been through sort of the worst of the worst, for lack of a better term, in and out of the building, growing pains with getting the organization back. You don't get back-to-back number one picks unless you've been at the bottom for a while, right? And she showed up like a pro every day, and she just continues to work and continues to grow, and she carried the franchise, and she carries the teams in different ways, and she deserves the opportunity to do that. I mean, it's close to home. For her, we love her. We want to continue to build, around her and continue for her to have success. I thought she was so instrumental in everything that we did. You lose everybody that we lost, and Kelsey Mitchell just kept getting better and better and better as the year progressed. And, I think that while it's hard to believe she's 8 years or whatever in this league, that there's still so much, in her. And I tell her every day, like, I love being her coach, and I want to.
Let me remind you of what happened last season. Let me remind you why this matters so much. The Indiana Fever went 24-20. They secured the 6th seed in the playoffs. They reached the WNBA semifinals for the first time in a decade. 10 years of wandering in the wilderness, and finally they broke through. For a franchise that had been stuck in rebuilding mode, that shift mattered. It wasn't just a good season, it was a statement season. It was a foundation season. It was the season that was supposed to launch them into championship contention. But that season also ended in heartbreak. Indiana lost an overtime game in the playoffs. Aaliyah Boston fouled out. Kelsey Mitchell, the heart and soul of that backcourt, literally had to be carried off the court because she gave every ounce of energy she had. Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and others were limited because of real injuries. The ending was brutal, and it left a taste in everyone's mouth that should have fueled an obsessive offseason. You would think, given that painful exit, that Stephanie White would be consumed with one thought: how do we get back there and finish the job? Instead, she is announcing games on ESPN. Look, I understand the appeal. Stephanie White is a rising star in the coaching world. She led the Fever to their best season in years. She is being recognized for her work, and that recognition comes with opportunities. Team USA wants her as an assistant coach. ESPN wants her behind the desk, breaking down games. First Form wants her at their events. Everyone wants a piece of Stephanie White. But here is the thing about success. It creates expectations. When you take a team to the semifinals, you don't get to coast in the offseason. You don't get to split your focus. The target on your back gets bigger, not smaller. Every other team in the league saw what the Fever did last year, and they are making moves right now to counter it. They are signing free agents. They are adjusting their schemes. They are preparing to make the Fever's path back to the semifinals as difficult as possible. And while they are doing that, the Fever's head coach is in a broadcast booth. The fans are noticing. Trust me, they are noticing. Scott Agnes, the Indiana analyst, broke the news. Stephanie White and others are serving as ESPN game analysts for the women's basketball tournament. He put the word out, and the reaction from Fever fans has been predictable and justified. Someone commented, "Stephanie White is not serious about the Fever. Better fire her. She should be concerned with selection of players." Now, is that harsh? Maybe. Is it premature to be calling for her job? Probably. But you have to understand where that frustration comes from. Fever fans have waited a long time for a team worth rooting for. They finally have one. They have Caitlin Clark, who is coming off an MVP performance at the FIFA World Basketball Tournament. They have Aaliyah Boston, who showed flashes of dominance. They have Kelsey Mitchell, who left everything on the court in that playoff loss. These fans want answers. They want to know who is staying and who is going. They want to know what free agents are being targeted. They want to know what the offensive system will look like. They want to know that the people in charge are as invested in the success of this team as they are. And when they see their head coach prioritizing outside ventures over roster construction, it sends a message. Whether that message is accurate or not, perception matters. In professional sports, confidence in leadership is everything. When the fan base starts to question whether the coach is fully committed, that doubt spreads. It seeps into the locker room. It affects free agent decisions. It creates narratives that become self-fulfilling prophecies. The Fever organization, for their part, has been remarkably quiet about this situation. I went through their recent communications. They showed love to Tamika Catchings for being a pioneering African-American female in the sport. They celebrated Aaliyah Boston. They highlighted Caitlin Clark and Michaela Timpson. But about Stephanie White stepping away to call games on ESPN? Nothing. Radio silence. That silence is deafening. It tells me one of two things. Either the organization fully supports White's decision and sees no problem with it, which would be tone deaf given the timing, or they are uncomfortable with the situation but don't want to create a public rift with their head coach, which suggests internal tension that could become a bigger problem down the road. Neither scenario is great for Fever fans. Let me be clear about something. I am not saying Stephanie White is a bad coach. Her record speaks for itself. Taking that team to 24 wins and a semifinal appearance was an impressive accomplishment. She clearly knows how to get the most out of her players, and she has the respect of the locker room. Those things matter.
Being a female in sports just means to me competing, showing up, and just showing that strength has no gender. And we are deserved of a seat at the table. My name is Tali Bevilacqua, and I am Advanced Scout with the Indiana Fever. I've been with the Indiana Fever for over 10 years now. I started playing basketball when I was a little tacker, around the age of 5. I've had an amazing career ever since then. I've represented Australia. I've played professionally for over 20 years and very fortunate to have played in the WNBA for 14 years. One of my favorite memories